Hi, this is Dan Mullin, piloting the South Bay Social Distancing Whirlybird. Today we're going to tour the entire PV coastline, and I have two guests with me. Jason Buck, a lifelong Palos Verdes resident, and Joe Koch, a paleontologist with in-depth knowledge of the geology of Palos Verdes. What are we looking at here, Jason?
Well, hey, that's Rossler Pool there, originally built in the 30s, named after Fred Rossler, and then they did a big remodel in the late 80s, and in 92 they reopened. Workout center, beautiful kitchen, and nice pool overlooking the beach. It's an awesome place. I'm a real estate agent for over 20 years. Grew up in Palos Verdes, and I teach a class called the PV Specialist about the history. Hey, that guy's doing a good job of cruising out and enjoying the ocean.
Yeah, he's paddling to shore because there's a great white shark chasing after him. Hope he makes it. Right now we're looking at Haggerty's, a famous winter surf spot. It's in a Beach Boys song, and the neighborhood church. What do you know about the church, Joe?
Well, I think Mickey Haggerty's and James Mansfield bought it. I don't know if they lived in it at all or very long, but they did buy it at one time.
I heard that during the Prohibition they had a pier that they brought in booze and stored it underneath that facility.
Yeah, I think they did. The pier was there for years and finally crumbled away.
And then the neighborhood church bought it for 60 grand, I heard?
Members that were gathering there all contributed, and they acquired the property for $60,000.
Yes.
The original building in 1928 cost $750,000.
Wow.
They got a good deal.
That's a deal.
Look at the kelp, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. The kelp beds grow on the shelf surrounding the peninsula. They grow about a foot a day in the winter when the water's colder, and they retreat in the summer when the water warms up. Sometimes the kelp beds go offshore for almost a mile, making navigating a boat in the area very tricky.
There's flat rock. It's the basalt is harder than the layers in the back. You see that? That's why it protects the coves. And all those layers you see, that's Altamira Shale, which is part of the Monterey Formation, and it's about 14 to 16 million years old. Actually, Palos Verdes was an island at one time that came up out of the ocean less than a million years ago, and it forms these sea terraces. So above these cliffs, some of these flat areas where the homes are, those were actually the seafloor at one time, thousands of years ago.
And that's a couple people on the trail coming up from Bluff Cove, but I've seen pictures of cars, Model A cars, like in the late 40s driving down there to go surfing.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible to think that they surfed down there without fins on those big old wooden boards so long ago.
Yeah, they had the Palos Verdes Surf Club back in 1937. It was one of the first surf clubs in all of California.
Oh, there's some surfers.
Yes, Jason, they're surfing Little Reef in the Cove. I know you like to surf here. It's more of a shortboard wave. The main break in the Cove is called Middles, and it's kind of a longboard wave. It gets crowded, but it's a beautiful wave. Then you have Boneyards, which is a left that breaks into the Cove, and on huge swells, Flat Rock Point will break at a spot called Ski Jump. They've been surfing in the Cove since 1935. It's a fairly mellow crowd. Anything south of here on the peninsula, there's a lot of localism that still goes on.
There's the landslide happened years ago. Took out some of the road with it.
Yeah, that's a great look of the slide there, Joe. Anyway, at one time there was 9 houses on the rim of the Cove here, great locations, and there was a water main break, and the residents sued the city of Palos Verdes Estates. The city bought back 7 of the 9 homes, and they were vacant for a long time. They ended up moving the police chief and some city employees in the houses, and the IRS found out about that and said it should be part of their taxable income, and anyway, they kicked the people out, and the houses were vacant, but now they've been torn down and they're part of the PV open space. And so everybody to use. There's 2 houses that are still there, and they still have great views. And by the way, we're looking at the middle break of the Cove right there, and Boneyards.
See a lot of fossils in that bay in the Cove there. They washed out from the cliffs and you find them on the beach. Mostly fossil whale bones.
So how long have you been looking at fossils, Joe?
Well, I worked at the County Museum, Natural History Museum, for 33 years. And since I retired, I've been still collecting fossils, and I wrote a book on the fossils of the Palos Verdes Hills.
Where can you get it?
Point is at the Interpretive Center, which is closed right now, or Amazon. You can actually order it on Amazon. It's the fossils of the Palos Verdes Hills.
from above, these kelp beds look impenetrable, but one of life's greatest experiences is scuba diving in them. When you're down below, there's just skinny stalks coming up, and you can swim right through them. It's like a maze, and it's beautiful, and it creates a great ecosystem. Lots of fish.
Lots of fish are through there. And there's a white sea bass bite every year that sometimes they get 50 pounders. And then if the water's warm enough, you'll find yellowtail and barracuda. And there's other spots in the sand beds and the bays that have halibut.
Wow.
You know, that we're looking there at Paseo del Mar, Avenue by the Sea. And the city has an art jury, which has architectural control over the homes. You're only allowed to build on 30% of your lot, and there's setbacks from the street. So on Paseo del Mar, the setback is 60 feet.
Wow.
And you see that drainage ditch there, they poured cement through there to keep the pipe from moving. And just behind that is Palos Verdes High School, which I graduated in 1990.
Wow.
Sweet.
In 91, they closed the school because there wasn't enough kids on the hill. But 10 years later, they reopened. There was 3 high schools back in the day, and now 2 remain.
Yeah, I went to one of the closed high schools, Marilest High, over on the east side of the hill. The beaches were more of the south-facing beaches. Anyway, we moved to Palos Verdes from Torrance when I was about 14, and I instantly fell in love with the open spaces and coastline of the Palos Verdes Peninsula. Hence the reason we're flying my helicopter over it right now with 2 experts.
So this is Rocky Point Road, and it was pretty significant back in the day when there were no homes there. A boat crashed, right?
It was a Dominator, 1961.
Yeah. Carrying...
Wheat. It was a Greek freighter, a real large one, yeah.
I heard he was drunk.
Probably.
They named a beer after it, Dominator Wheat at the Redondo Beach Brewery.
That's true. So they tried to pull the boat off and it didn't work, and then it crumbled up into bits, and they even lost a crane.
Yeah, they had a barge with a crane on it to pull it off, and
Yeah.
the crane's laying on the beach now, in parts of the Dominator.
Yeah, you can see some of the remnants right there of the rescue equipment and the actual boat. So.
Yeah.
I do remember as a kid, my dad brought me down there probably in 1968 or so, and that ship was huge at the time.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing what Mother Nature can do.
Well, when the swells come into that area, there's some of the biggest waves I've ever seen, and some of those big, giant pieces of metal would just roll like dice along the rocks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you always have to respect Mother Nature and the ocean, and all the things that live in it.
Yeah.
You know, that's living, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was a longshoreman, and he almost had the job where they actually hired longshoremen from the Port of LA to come and unload the wheat from the Dominator before it actually
Got
sunk.
wet.
So,
Yeah.
So we're looking at Rocky Point right here. And this is right above Lunada Bay.
The guy with all the grass there, he ended up buying the house next door because his wife kept backing into the side of the driveway, and he wanted to expand his driveway, and he thought he'd just buy the other house and make it a guest house.
Yeah, I can't do that. So now we're looking down actually at Lunada Bay Point. So this is a very famous surf break. It's known really for all the localism that's gone on there over the years. The guys have their own little shack down there, and the Coastal Commission actually made them take it down due to the lawsuit. And I think that pretty much ended the localism.
Yeah. Well, there's Lunada Canyon running back up there, and about 10 years ago I found a fossil bison pelvis up there that had cut marks on it. And we dated it, and it was 13,500 years old, which is one of the oldest dates of humans in California. And it was right there in...
So you're kind of
Lunada
famous.
Canyon. What's that?
Oh, we got to land the helicopter. Oh, all right, we're taking off again. Joe was telling a story, but we were going to run out of gas, so we had to land at the Lunada Bay Heliport. The convenience store, we got a couple snacks and took a leak, and now we're back up again.
Yeah, and that's Lunada Bay. A lot of fossil whale bones on the beach down there, too. It's a good site.
So what do you do with the fossils when you get them?
If they're of any importance, I give them to the interpretive center, the interpretive center. We have them either on display or in our collection.
Yeah. And your degree was in, what was it in?
What's that?
What was your degree in?
Paleontology?
Paleontology from UCLA, correct?
Well, I went to UCLA, El Camino College, and then Art Center.
And South High?
Yeah.
see Catalina Island there in the distance
Yeah.
on the right of your screen.
And that is Honeymoon Cove. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little trail down there. I think a guy named Wally lives down there somewhere, so I've heard rumors.
Yeah, I've always heard it called Wally's too, but then some people said no, it was Honeymoon Cove. I don't know.
Look at that tree just sticking out of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
That street's Via Segovia. A couple houses for sale on there. Dan, you're in real estate, aren't you?
Damn straight, Jason. Been selling property in the South Bay and the Palos Verdes Peninsula for the past 30 years. Can you believe it?
And here's Christmas Tree Cove. They've had a slide there the last few years, I guess. I don't think any houses went into the ocean, but obviously some of the roadway and park there went in.
So Christmas Tree Cove is really the dividing line between Palos Verdes Estates and Rancho Palos Verdes. It's a beautiful place. Every once in a while sand will accumulate on the point. We even took a boat there and hung out one time. It was a really fun thing to do. Check out that boat down there. They're having a great time fishing right off the rocky reef.
There's some nice tide pools, and luckily these tide pools are, people can't access it, so a lot of marine life is still living there. Some areas are pretty well picked over, like White Point, but areas like this, luckily all the marine life is still living there.
Well, that's Marguerite Drive, as it follows along the coastline. And then that reef there is absolutely amazing. It's almost the size of a football field.
It's crazy, huh?
It's built below the new homes that were built in 1998 called Oceanfront. And I remember one day I went down to that reef and it was full of mud. And I was pretty disappointed. And I saw fish and game at the local sandwich shop called Rafaela's. And I saw some fish and game guys. I mentioned to them, hey, would you be concerned if a reef was full of mud? And they said yes. And within 2 days, the whole cliff line was sandbagged.
So before they built the ocean front estates homes, it used to be open space and it was great for motorcycle riding back in high school and then later mountain bike riding with a lot of berms and jumps. It was a fantastic, fun spot.
You can see there where they bulldozed the rocks over the edge of the cliff, and they leveled that years ago for the houses.
So it's a man-made alluvial fan, huh?
There it is.
Yeah, and it comes up the tide pool. This tide pool is kind of interesting. As the basalt cooled millions of years ago, it formed these rings. We'll see them here, and some of the locals call it the spider web. But you see the center there, and then all these radiating rings out, and then the basalt.
Huh. So is this Golden Cove, Jason, or is this the...
That one is Crystal Cove, and then Golden Cove is a. I don't know that there's actually a marine area called Golden Cove, but there is a shopping area
Yeah.
right to the left of this in that area. And then on top of that hill there is Palos Verdes City Hall,
Yeah.
which was first a military building in the late 30s or early 40s. In fact, they have these giant gun turrets that are still there. They had an 8mm gun that would have been used to fire on the Japanese boats if they tried to come through the channel to invade Los Angeles. Later on, it became a Nike missile site during the Cold War.
Wow.
They actually had Nike missiles on Rocky Point Road and in the City Hall area.
And you can still see some of the remnants of that, right?
Well, they have the gate doors and the things where they stored them underneath. There are no missiles
Yeah.
or any of that, but there are still bunkers. And you can see the other.
Yeah, they're right through them.
So coming up here on the left, we have the Palos Verdes Interpretive Center. And Joe, you're a docent there. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Interpretive Center is?
But
What's
basically,
your role with it?
they call it interpreters. They're basically it's a museum. It's Palos Verdes Museum, and we deal with the local Indian population and the fossils and the history of Palos Verdes. And it's quite a nice place. And we have some nice. It's all free. It's open 7 days a week, and they have some really nice local exhibits in there.
And it's also famous for whale watching. And this
Right,
is one
and
of
we're
the
watching there.
best spots to see the migratory gray whales on the west coast, actually.
Yeah,
So,
those people are there every day during the migration season.
yeah. The whale counters.
Yeah.
And there's all the fence posts in that whole cliff line are numbered, so that when they see a whale, they can say, "Oh, it's above 45," and
Wow.
the visitor can then quickly digest where 45 is.
Interesting story here. Do you remember that guy that all that Brazilian restaurant and he killed his wife.
Oh, yeah,
And he
yeah.
came to the edge here and he threatened to jump and kill himself.
Yep.
And he jumped and he landed in a bush. And he's in prison now. The rest of
And now we're looking at Point Vicente, and this is the most western part of the peninsula. This actually plays a part in one of the mini microclimates in the peninsula. So if you're north of Point Vicente, a lot of times you can be socked in the summer marine layer, and if you're to the south, you could be basking in brilliant sunlight. Anyway, we're looking at the Point Vicente Lighthouse, and that was built in 1926, and it's still an active lighthouse. The rumors are that it's haunted, and I do remember going after a formal dance and bringing our dates there to see if we can scare them into liking us. Some may actually consider Point Vicente the official southern boundary of the South Bay. I don't.
Wow, look at that with Malibu in the distance. That is an incredible
Yeah,
shot.
Incredible.
Yep.
There's some really nice, the Altamira Shale, nice big beds of it there.
So how many layers of rock are there on the peninsula? What are
The entire Palos Verdes is made of Altamira Shale, and there's about 2,000 feet of bed in there, along goes under the ocean. And like I say, when it was formed, it was a deep sea deposit, probably about 3,000 feet like the Catalina Channel is today. And we find deep sea fish in the beds. That's how we know that it's.
Okay.
And there's a trail coming down at used to be called Fishing Access. Now it's Pelican Point. And on that trail there coming down, I think you can see where the left there, where the curators at the museum found a 6-inch fossil shark tooth right on the trail.
Wow.
They weathered out of the cliff.
So now we're out at Long Point, which used to be Marineland, and now it's the Terranea.
Nelson's.
There's Nelson's right there.
So many movies were filmed there. Nelson's
Oh,
is
yeah.
a great spot to go check out because they
Yeah.
built a big homage to the dedication to the movies that were shot there.
It's nice, it's all open to the public, so you can hike around all those trails, you can walk all through there, it's just it's a beautiful place to
They
visit.
did a good job at the facility, and it's able to bring about $5 million a year in tax revenue to the city. So the city's very fortunate to have it.
Nice, yeah.
It's a great spot for a staycation too, so if you want to have a really nice experience, you can just head up to the Terranea and get a room for a night or two and feel like you're
Ask
eating
for a
your-
locals discount.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wonderful
absolutely.
restaurants, yeah.
Yep.
And look at the beautiful coves. I mean, there's so many just gorgeous spots along this coastline.
Yeah. It is a truly magical place. This is why I love flying the helicopter over the Palos Verdes.
Right.
It's magical.
There's Terranea Beach, they call it. It's open to the public also. And there's the Sea Cave, it used to be called the Marineland Sea Cave, and then I think now they call it Hudson's or something. But at low tide you can walk in there, and at high tide,
I swam in there just a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
We parked a boat right outside, and I jumped off and swam in and shocked all the people. They looked at me like I was a sea monster
Yeah.
or something.
I can't believe the sharks didn't eat you thinking you were a seal.
I'm a fast swimmer.
yeah.
But yeah, the Sea Cave's super cool. If you get a chance to go in it, it's echoes in there. It's really a really cool spot.
One of the neatest parts of Marineland was that it was also a sea and rescue spot. And I think it's important that we always keep in mind that the animals have lives too.
Yeah,
and that,
right.
that tar and other pollutants really hurt them, and we should always be, trying to take care of them because it's all part of our environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the sea out here is in the preserve where you're not actually allowed to take anything out of a fish or anything. So.
That's right, a lot of
And
the
it's
coast there is all
supposed to be
preserved.
working and it's
Yeah.
regenerating and the fish populations are coming back. It upset a lot of fishermen, but I think in the long run,
Well,
It's
the
gonna help
fishermen
us
aren't
keep
going to have
it.
anything to fish unless they preserve it. So.
exactly. Here's the PV Bay Club. So this was a mid-century modern place built in, I think it was 62. And it used to be big with the pilots and flight attendants, and it was a very hip party place back in the day.
And look at all that open land. There are acres and acres and acres of land that the city has bought through grants. So certain individuals were able to contribute, and the state matched the city's contribution and was able to buy and now preserve the land. So there's lots of open trails. There is some gardening. York's got a avocado and a winery.
Yeah.
And the Land Conservancy is maintaining it really nicely now, which is really very
Yeah.
nice. This is Abalone Cove.
And to the left is Upper Portuguese Bend, which is where Frank Vanderlip first came. he sent a scout. The scout came back with 2 areas that he thought were going to be the perfect climate. One was Palos Verdes, the other was Montecito. And back in that time, they were doing a lot of dry farming. They found that the coastal fog was able to allow the great tomatoes and the lima beans to grow without doing any irrigation. And that was Frank Vanderlip's nursery school that they built there on the water.
And the road right above Abalone Cove, where I got my first ticket when I was 16, coming home from surfing.
Well, the road actually moves an inch a month, and there is a natural landslide that's probably one of the biggest landslides, and it's a total phenomenon. But the homes have moved up to 600 feet from their original location.
Yeah. And that started when they were going to take Crenshaw down to the PB Drive South. They did a road cut. They had 2 layers of rocks and a slick layer between it. Water got in it, and that slide has been going ever since.
I thought it was from the septic tanks.
From a lot of things, but it's the bentonite that moves, yeah.
Yeah, is it bentonite?
Bentonite, yeah, between the layers of Altamira shale.
Yeah.
And there's a Sacred Cove.
Sacred Cove, that used to be a nude beach back when I was a youngster, and quite frankly, I didn't see any really good-looking people coming up from the nude beach when I was a kid.
And you see the cracks in the basalt where the waves go through and form the sea caves. The basalt actually protects the softer layers, but there's some cracks there for the waves come in. And,
You rode it out?
yeah, there's about 7 sea caves in Palos Verdes.
Yeah, there's cliff diving on some of these too, but they're trying to, I guess with the advent of social media, there's a lot of kids coming and jumping off the cliffs, and there's a south swell rolling through here that people have actually died, so be careful.
Dan, you're getting kind of close. Can we pull over a little bit?
Yeah.
Now you really have to be careful when you're
Too close
walking.
to everything. I don't like this.
This is my e-ticket version of
Pull
flying
it up
right
a
now.
little bit, Dan. Okay, now go back
I'm an
down.
experienced pilot. Don't worry, I've got you covered.
Woo, that was close.
I've been in a wreck
Anytime,
for a while.
anytime that you're walking along the coastline, you really need to be cautious about how close you are to the waters, because the south swells come in intervals of 20 minutes, so it might look flat,
20
and then
seconds.
all of a sudden, 20 seconds, all of a sudden, like 6 waves will come and knock you right off the
Yep,
rocks.
that happens. There's an archery club right up here too that you can be a member of for a low fee. You just have to have your own bow and arrow. So
Wow.
if you're on PB Drive South, you can see the archery club.
Here's a landslide, and we covered up the Portuguese Bend. I guess they had a little resort there, didn't they, at one time?
They had a pier there, and
They had a pool house, everything.
Wow.
And then a lot of the homes were picked up and moved over to the Barkentine area.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There's
This
an urban
was-
legend story that a car was left in the parking lot and it's just now withering out of the cliff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the military people have homes here. There was actually quite a bit of military stuff in Palos Verdes. In fact, near Point Vicente, when I first lived there, there was a shooting range, and you were doing shooting. But Vanderlip lives right up here, up in that area. His estate was just sold for nearly 11 million, and he bought Palos Verdes for 1.3 million
Yeah.
in 1913.
Looks like we're at the world famous Portuguese Bend Club.
This is a
Portuguese
private
Bend.
beach club where you
Yeah.
have little huts and paddle tennis, and a really great place to hang out.
Are you a member there?
I am a member, and I go down at least once a week just for paddle tennis and other times to enjoy the beach.
It's a beautiful area. And this spot here is kind of called Trindles, and it's between 2 big reefs, but you access this beach from Trump's golf course. It's public access trails. And you can go down there, and there's times in the middle of summer you can be the only person on the beach.
Wow, is that something?
We live in a world of 13 to 15 million people surrounding us, and you can go
Yeah.
there and have your own little private beach.
Yeah.
So this area was interesting. Zuckerman was the one that built my area near Point Vicente. He was the developer in the 50s. His son bought all this land called Ocean Terrace and designed a golf course. But they skipped a caisson project when they were finishing up, and the lake leaked, and the 18th hole fell into the ocean. It actually bankrupted him and allowed for the next guy to come in and get the whole property.
Wow.
Really good deal.
Yeah.
He had a pretty big head and thought that the homes were worth 10 to 12 million, but the value now is around 4 to 6 million for these big homes.
The house is selling basically the golf course. So yeah, we do a lot of kiteboarding in this area. It's great, but you got to know where all the reefs are underneath the water there.
There's Trump's golf course.
There it is, and there's public access trails, which was great. This all went up with York to get the permission to do it. They had to put in public access all over the
You're
place.
getting public parking there free, too. You can park.
Exactly. And they have a big grass area, which is a wonderful area to hang around. It's
I think it's a dog beach too,
picnic
isn't
tables.
it?
It
Well,
was a
not
dog
anymore.
beach, but not anymore.
Oh, okay.
Now they
$500
actually have an
ticket.
LA County lifeguard station on the beach in the summer now.
Ah.
Okay, thank you. So when I was a kid too, this was all open area. There was one road that went through there. There was a fence. You had to go through the fence to get down to the ocean there. There's a couple of breaks right down below.
Wow.
And now we're wrapping it up. So you see those white condos there? That's pretty much the dividing line between Rancho Palos Verdes and San Pedro. So we've now covered the entire peninsula. If you look far off, you're looking at White Point.
Good flying, Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm very stoked you guys are flying with me, and I learned a lot of stuff from you guys. So
And thanks everyone for watching. Look forward to our next adventure. And have a great day.